Video Killed the Radio Star presents When Joe Strummer Met the Pogues. In this episode, we explore the period in Joe Strummer's life when he left The Clash, joined Irish band The Pogues, and starred in the spaghetti western Straight to Hell.
I heard about them, both of them around the same time. I heard of Joe with the 101ers. Chiswick Records signed them. And Chiswick Records was run by Ted Carroll. And he said to me, he used to give me, every time Chiswick would do a single, he'd give me a copy. So the 101ers, and that's when I first heard Joe Strummer. Chiswick also then put out a song by the Nipple Erectors, which was Shane's band.
No, I used to go and see him in the 101ers, yeah. He was called Woody then, yeah. Well, he was always known as several different names. He was an AKA man, you know. I just plucked up the guts and went up. You know, I was in the audience, you know. He went up to another one of the 101ers, Lloyd, and said, "Hey, great gig, man," you know what I mean? And they go, "Yeah, right, yeah, cool, you know, right, you know." But Joe used to fucking say, "Oh, I'm really glad you do it, yeah, how you doing, you know. So we became friends, like, from me stepping out of the audience, you know. The one-man act, really, the 101ers. I mean, they were got good music, great musicians and all that, but he was on one planet, they were on another, you know. But they weren't really interested in smashing the establishment in the face type of thing, you know what I mean? And all the aggro that can bring down you know what I mean?
We were kind of a hippie squat rock band, the 101ers. And punk polarised you're either for it or against it. There's still people today that don't talk to me down in West London for going over to the other side. Like
Mick and Tony James and people like that, they used to come and see the 101ers, and then the punk scene started, and so Joe left the 101ers and the Clash were formed, you know what I mean?
Sometimes when people speak about punks, they just seem to see that it was all of this sort of like chaos, everything been done like in a slapdash kind of way. But I don't think Joe was that kind of a character. I think when Joe went to write a song, he really applied himself to the writing of the song, to the recording, and to the singing and performing of it, you know. And no amount of sort of saying, "Oh, well, you only need 3 chords or 1 chord to play," you know, that really doesn't come into it. You know, the Clash were obviously a very serious band.
When we formed the group, Bernie Rhodes said to us, because Mick had some sort of dopey love songs, like 1, 2, I Got a Crush on You. I mean, kind of cute, but dopey. And so Bernie Rhodes said, "Well, why don't you write about the things that are affecting you?"
I think, you know, Joe Strummer is one of the great songwriters. With The Clash, he wrote some of the greatest songs of British rock and roll.
I really liked the way I spent the weekend with Mick, getting a set of lyrics onto a piece of paper, and I really battered away at this typewriter, and I took it to him, and within like 2 hours, those words were floating on a melody, and I thought, this is great, because they'd been just 2-dimensional, and then they fly.
One of the first things I got going when I managed the Pogues was I met up with Alex Cox, the film director, and I was getting him to direct a video. It was the video of A Pair of Brown Eyes. Alex was getting ready to direct Sid and Nancy. So I kind of badgered Alex into allowing the Pogues to write a few songs for that. It was during a recording session for that I met Joe. That's when I first got to know and actually talk to Joe Strummer. Kind of after Sid and Nancy, Alex came up with a project. You know, he was very involved in Nicaragua. At that time, there was the civil war going on there. And Alex came up with an idea that we should go to Nicaragua, go up the mountains to the Sandinista villages, and we were going to play concerts there. And when Joe heard about this, he said he'd come as well, and he'd bring a three-piece band. I think he was going to bring a drummer and a double bass player. So it was going to be the Pogues and Joe Strummer heading off to the mountains in Nicaragua in the middle of a civil war and play to the Sandinistas. And nobody would insure us, naturally enough. So that put paid to that. Because we couldn't go to Nicaragua, I think Alex was down maybe at Cannes Film Festival, and himself and Dick Rude were there, and they were sitting by a pool and they decided to write this screenplay, which became Straight to Hell.
Give me the downbeat, Maestro!
I'll take it. Yeah. With a budget of £1 million, like we made a spaghetti western with them.
It just seemed like a great idea, you know, to go down to Spain and make a western of sorts. A spaghetti western, or a tribute to a spaghetti western, an homage to a spaghetti western. And that came to pass. We all moved down to Almeria in the south of Spain, and I think we were down there, I think it was a 6-week shoot, and we were there for about 4 weeks. For 4 weeks of total mayhem.
And there was a fiesta on for the whole fucking time.
It was a combination of various musicians, crews, and some American actors. Joe and 2 or 3 of his mates, I think it was Dick Rude and somebody else, they would stay out on set at night. They'd burn these bonfires to keep warm because it gets cold in the desert at night, you know. I think they slept in some of the outhouses there, you know, the houses that were there, like as part of the set. From day one, from when he got his first suit, I think he took a dive into the swimming pool at the hotel and got out, let the suit dry on him, and then stayed in the suit for the duration. So it kept getting dirtier and more dust accumulating on it, and he liked that. He had that really good look, you know. That it was, I guess it was a kind of form of method acting.
So he was really into being an actor, you know. He wasn't afraid to put a lot of himself into it, you know, like doing the hair with fucking motorcycle grease, you know what I mean? Well, I'll tell you, in that filming, right, you know, Alex was manic as usual, right, yeah? And the script was always changing, as everybody knows, you know what I mean? But it was changed by him and the little nerd, yeah? No, I don't mean to. And what's meant to happen is, this is in the final shootout, you know. I was meant to pull my pistol, cock it, aim it, and there'd be an empty chamber, so it would just go click, you know what I mean, right, yeah? And like, then he was meant to go with his gun, but his gun jammed, right, yeah? So he slung a real Sten gun at me, you know what I mean? So I had 5 more left in the fucking gun, blanks left in the gun, yeah? And a blank can like a blank at this range can kill you, at this range can kill you, at this range can kill you. So I put the fucking pistol up to his head, and I went like that with a Sten gun, yeah? Got the thing, and like went bang, 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 bang. And he was fucking terrified, you know what I mean? But he didn't cry. He didn't cry. And the whole film crew thought that was a rat, you know what I mean? It was one of those mistakes that happened, and they turned out being better than the original script. But Alex Cook said, "Excelente, do it again, please," you know?
It was like all your birthdays had come at once, you know what I mean? We were out in the desert, we were all dressed as banditos, and it was an incredible experience. I loved every second of it, every minute of it.
They all start with drugs, specifically heroin. When Topper became addicted to that, I knew we'd had it, because you can see for a saxophone player drifting across the top of the music, you've got a little leeway there, but the drum beat is so, it has to be there. Well, that was just maybe the sort of the visible part of the rock. The other part of the rock that you couldn't really see was we were all very tired by this point. Perhaps we'd done too many records, too many tours. No one ever suggested, hey, why don't you take a break? Or we were too stupid to think of that. Hey, you know, we made 16 sides of vinyl. Why don't we, like, have 6 months off or something?
I think when the Clash ended, for a while, Joe Strummer was lost. He was bereft. I mean, this was the man who had this gang, which the Clash were. They had that gang mentality. These kids who'd come through punk together and manned the punk barricades and kind of fought the good fight. And so I think for a while he's kind of casting his eyes around, looking for a new gang in town. And suddenly there's the Pogues.
All right then. I say I've been ill all week, you know, but I feel more like it tonight. You know, I mean, people say to me, why don't you stay in bed, you know? But I think, you know, stay in bed when the Pogues are in town. That's, you know, that's a stupid thing to do. Okay, I'm going to go out and get vibed up, all right, guys?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce a friend of ours. His name is Joe Strummer.
Pogues is almost exactly like a punk group in the physicality of the music. You're really physically connected. That's why I don't go a bundle on the electronic circuit. There's nothing like a mandolin or a guitar or even an accordion or a drum kit or a bass. Something that you can... I love the sound of humans like grunting away at their... struggling with their instruments.
You've got these guys who are kind of rebel rockers, they're outsiders, they're wild boys. They themselves are still genuinely down in the gutters, in the squats, playing in the little pubs, and he loves all of it. It takes him back to his rock and roll roots.
The Pogues had just come back from a European tour, and I noticed Philip Chevron wasn't too well. He was complaining a bit about his, I think maybe his stomach and stuff like that, but he was definitely not looking well. It gave me a bit of a fright. So we were heading off to the States for a tour, and I thought if Philip came on the tour, it was going to be very dangerous for him health-wise. I mean, really dangerous. And I was trying to imagine a situation, well, if Philip didn't come, who could we replace him with? And I got one of those sort of like light bulb moments, and I thought, well, I'll ask Joe. Of course, when I told everybody, you know, they were more than happy, you know, to go with that, as any band would be. A few days into gigging, we include two of songs recorded by The Clash. One was London Calling, and the other was I Fought the Law. So those two became a part of the set. I think he really enjoyed that. I think that energised him, because he was going around, it was very exciting touring with the Pogues, you know. It wasn't like we were going around playing to half-empty clubs or anything, you know. We were playing to full houses of mad Pogues fans, you know. So there was a great energy there, you know.
Joe came alive on stage. Joe Strummer was quite a quiet man when you met him in any other context. If you met him in a bar or in a restaurant, which I did, he'd be quite quiet and he wouldn't say an awful lot. The minute you put him on a stage, he's the perfect rock and roll frontman.
I remember once watching the Muppet Show, and Barbara Streisand, I think it was Barbara Streisand, and the Muppet Band were backing her. And everybody was being really well behaved because it was Barbara Streisand and they didn't want to, you know. But, you know, Animal, the drummer, he was like, I mean, they kind of had him chained down, but he was still, you could see he was getting twitchy. And he was getting worse and worse. And there's two of the band, sort of like they're talking, and one says, if he goes, I'm going with him. And Animal just kind of like goes, "Aah!" and just like loses it, and the rest of the band lose it as well, and that's what Joe's like really.
Thank you.
It all comes out. And he can rail, and he can joy, and he can sing, and he can shout, and he can fight. And the Pogues are perfect for that, because they're this rumbustious, loud, kind of rebel music every night to go and do on stage. So I think he found himself by joining them.
I said, Joe. That brings me on to, you know, the visionary, the poet of the band, Shane MacGowan, who I think is like one of the finest writers of the century. And for so long people thought they were a drunken rabble, but they just got no idea how great he is.
Later on, again, after Shane left the band, the Pogues were left without a singer. And now I wasn't with them then, but the band asked Joe to come and replace Shane, and Joe said yes.
It was the right decision to make, and it would have been much worse for us to sort of to have kind of like forced Shane to be travelling around with us, where A, he doesn't want to, and B, quite honestly, his health at the moment is just not up to it. It would be criminal of us to do that, for both those reasons. So it was an awkward decision, but it wasn't a tough one, because you know, we just really we want him to be, you know, to get himself together and get himself well. Essentially, we had two options as far as I could see. We had either try to do it as a 7-piece, or we asked Joe if he'd be interested, because Joe is the 9th Pogue and has been
one of the many
for a long
9th
time.
Pogues, yeah.
Well, no, the 9th Pogue.
During that period, I didn't see him. I saw him when he was recording maybe the first Mescalero album. We were just shooting the breeze and talking about what he was up to. I remember we went into a bar in Harleston and he kept putting on Rum Sodomy and the Lash by the Pogues on the jukebox. You know, when it'd be over, he'd go back and put it on again. And so I listened to that 2 or 3 times, and then we went into... we were going back to the studio, and I remember it was night, it was dark, and all of a sudden he started pointing to the stars and telling me, you know, this was the Big Bear and this was the dog, or, you know, and I didn't know he knew all that stuff. So I kind of looked at him going, you're joking me, you know what I mean? You have me on here, Joe. He said, no, I'm serious, Frank. And then, so there was that other side to him as well, you know, other than just music, you know what I mean? Joe was a very well-rounded person.
Of course, sadly, Joe passed away far too young. His funeral in London that day was an extraordinary event. They took his hearse through West London, which was his kind of adopted home, Ladbroke Grove and all of that. people lined the streets for Joe Strummer.
You know, Joe was like, you know, there's certain people, you know, they say they broke the mold. And Joe is one of those people, you know, he'll always stand out as one of the great personalities of world rock music, you know what I mean?
I think in many ways we can look back on Joe Strummer now as the great, almost the punk troubadour, if you like. He was a man who carried all of these songs, who took it to the people. He collected music from Jamaica, from the Caribbean, from South America, from Ireland, from the streets of London. And he encompassed it all in this fantastic, heartfelt believer's personality. And as long as young people, or any people really, want someone to look to who meant it, who it came from the heart, Joe Strummer will always be there for them. Because I don't think he ever sang a note, ever wrote a word that he didn't mean. And that's what you have in Joe Strummer.
I think, you know, he deserves all the credit he gets, and I'm sorry he's still not around. The music scene is definitely a poorer place without him.
You know, I mean, some people, other bands, like, should take a hint from him, you know what I mean?